country can utilize its human resources to the optimum if there is no planning for the future demands to be made on human resources. Training and development of human resources is not a short-term process, nor is the planning of human resources. Briggs states that the effective planning of a country's human resources will contribute much to the national productivity, and as such, leads to the increased economic growth. In that regard, at the dawn of the new South Africa, the government of the newly democratic South Africa realized the imperative for creating a future-fit workforce that is equipped to tackle the challenges of a digital future. That imperative is more now powerful than ever. Now, in the context of the NQF, the first step the new South African government took in transforming education and training system was the promulgation of progressive legislation, the SAQA Act, Act 58 of 1995, which was the first education-related act that was passed by the new democratic government. The act provided for the development and implementation of a new framework for education and training in South Africa, which created a single unified system of education and training qualifications, the National Qualifications Framework, that is the NQF. The NQF is the mechanism chosen to integrate this system, to ensure transparency and quality within it, to enable redress in education, training, and work, and to enhance universal access to and mobility and progression in the system. The objectives of the NQF are designed to contribute to the full personal development of each learner and the social and economic development of the nation at large. After 12 years of implementation, the NQF was further strengthened by replacing the SAQA Act with the NQF Act 67 of 2008. The NQF Act deepened systematic integration by providing for 3 ministerially determined and coordinated NQF sub-frameworks: the general and further education and training, higher education, and trades and occupations, and the establishment of the 3 quality councils to oversee these sub-frameworks, namely Umalusi, the Council on Higher Education, CHE, and the Quality Council for Trades and Occupations, QCTO, respectively. The NQF Act also provided for the move from 8-level NQF to the current 10-level NQF, and for the inclusion of professional bodies in the learning and work system. Job creation and growth and the development of knowledge and skills needed are essential parts of growing the economy and the participation in it that will address the triple scourge of poverty, inequality, and unemployment. Education, training, and work are linked to a reduction in poverty and inequality. We need to work hard to deliver the education, training, and work opportunities made possible in the context of the NQF and the South African Constitution. The NQF, like the Constitution of South Africa, exists in the vision of equality, justice, freedom, and multiracial democracy. It is built on the premise that all people are created equal and share human rights. The focus on learning and work pathways has deepened. The quality councils, when submitting qualifications to SAQA for registration, must ensure that these are located with learning and work pathways. There must be no dead ends, and lifelong learning is to be encouraged. The professional bodies and 21 sector and education training authorities must similarly link progression to learning and work in their sectors. Given the current socio-economic context in South Africa, it is widely recognized that every workplace needs to become a training space. It is therefore through the N2F that employees are put at the heart of South Africa's qualifications and training systems through their HR departments and staff organizations. Coming to the N2F milestones achieved to share. SAQA and the Quality Councils must work towards systemic integration and transparency, quality and international comparability, as well as redress and learner access, success and progression in the education and training system. All of these entities are obliged to work together and integrate their work into the whole integrated system desired. The South African N2F is unusual in its comprehensiveness, in that it includes education and training, professional bodies and professional designations, the evaluation of foreign qualifications, verification, record of learning, N2F advice services, and the National Learners Records database. Coming to integration. The biggest single achievement of the N2F has been the development and implementation of a single integrated system for learning achievements. Under the SAQA Act, there was massive integration through the rationalization of the higher education institutions and the TVET colleges, through the establishment and refinement of a single school curriculum, and through the development of a single system for occupational qualifications. Under the N2F Act, the N2F sub-frameworks had been determined by 2014, coordinating between industry bodies, businesses, and training organizations has to make sure that employees have access to training programs to equip them with skills that employers actually need today and will need in future. Participation of industry in shaping training requirements and practical deliverable qualifications had enabled the employer to contribute immensely in the skills agenda, thus helping in guaranteeing a national workforce that is future fit and employable both here and on international stage. Coming to quality and transparency. The simplification and transparency of this integrated N2F system has been achieved in a number of ways. First, the N2F-related information is made publicly available in the form of the N2F policy published and widely advocated by SAQA and the Quality Councils and through the National Learner Records database. SAQA provides leadership within the N2F family. The N2F policy suite has been developed and the focus for some time has been on implementation. The Quality Councils have developed N2F framework policies in line with SAQA policies as well as overseeing education and training quality in their sub-framework context in line with explicit and published criteria. SAQA works with the Quality Councils to ensure that qualifications and part qualifications registered on the N2F have clear articulation pathways and are internationally comparable. Coming to the NLRD, it makes official information on registered qualification and part qualifications, accredited providers, learning achievements, recognized professional bodies, and registered professional designations available to the public through its searchable databases. It is one of the most comprehensive databases of learners and their achievements in the world. For research purposes only, via the NLRD data, SAQA also tracks the number of people who have achieved their qualifications, part qualifications, via the recognition of prior learning. By March 2018, in the National Learner Records database, there were 18,372,991 learners, 14,950,5 465 qualification achievements, 73,790 achievements through RPL, 106 recognized professional bodies, 385 professional designations, and 350,677 people with professional designations. The public can trust the legitimacy of the information in the searchable databases of the National Record NLRD, and can access through the NLRD and through the Quality Council providers accredited to offer the qualifications, where the accreditation process ensures that the providers meet specific quality standards. Now, when I mentioned this checking of the accredited and registered qualifications, there are still problems and challenges of learners or institutions that are picked up at a late moment that they are not registered with the CHE. Their qualifications are not registered, meaning that learners, some of whom are employees, are adults, are learned, they don't bother to check this. They just register. And only at the last minute, when they are about to write the exam, they discover that the qualifications that they are supposed to be writing for are not accredited by the CHE. They are neither registered either on the SAQA National Records Database. So I am urging people to please be sensitive to that, because I know of a university where learners were about to write exams when they discovered that that particular institution is not accredited for those qualifications. So the registered qualifications and part qualifications open a way for the registration of learnerships and skills programs and for learning and work pathways. The NLRD allows government entities and the private sector to prevent the proliferation of misrepresented and fraudulent qualifications by allowing for the verification of qualifications against those in the NLRD. Even in this one, SAQA has a register of fraudulent qualifications, meaning that people that have forged their qualifications. SAQA reports to the Minister of Higher Education on a bi-monthly basis. Unfortunately, at the moment, that register cannot be made public as yet because there's no legislation allowing that. However, there's going to come a time when that is going to be made public and it is going to be able to name and shame frauds. Members of the public are able to trust, recognize professional bodies. However, people are allowed to write to SAQA and find out about any suspicious fraudulent qualification. SAQA has a right to inform an employer that yes, it is fraudulent, no, it's not, or it does appear on our NLRD or not. So members of the public are able to trust recognized professional bodies, and they are reassured by the authenticity of registered professional designations. Professionals belonging to recognized professional bodies are bound by a code of ethics, and members of the public are able to hold them accountable to this code through the recognized professional body concerned. As you know, SAQA registers the professional bodies. Learner achievements are tracked over time to show how learners have progressed, which fields of study are they pursuing, and what learning pathways are being followed. Learners are also able to request a record of learning for themselves, and SAQA sends them a record of all qualifications and part qualifications listed for them on the NLRD. SAQA incubated National Career Services, CDS, for the Department of Higher Education and Training for 3 years, starting in October 2010, and reaching around 6 million learners in all. While the CDS is now located within the Department of Higher Education and Training, SAQA provides an N2F Advisory Service through the N2F-related system. Information is provided on request, and through alerts, around 3 million people are reached annually. 3 million, listen carefully now. Thank you. Okay. Around 3 million people are reached annually. 3 million. Okay, thank you. I'm sorry. 3 million, 61,500. Remember, I'm a South African through and through. Okay. All right. 3 million, 61,550 in the 2017-20. Through phone, email, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, participation in exhibition, SAQA websites, and the alerts. So that is how SAQA is able to reach people. Those are the figures of people that SAQA is able to reach. All of this work, including the N2F criteria in their own right, their explicitness, and the advocacy and application of the criteria, enhance quality and transparency in the context of the N2F system, as well as promoting and supporting lifelong learning and learner mobility. Coming to access and redress. I hope you are aware of the fact that these are the objectives of the N2F. So what I'm trying to outline here is how SAQA has achieved the implementation of the objectives as outlined in the N2F objectives policies. There is universal access to education and training in South Africa. The enrollment patterns for different types of qualifications and learning either mirror the patterns of social groups in society at large or are well on their way to doing so. Alternative access and redress via the recognition of prior learning is also key in the N2F context. RPL is a key enabler for the access, advanced standing, license to practice, and credit that support progression, articulation in learning, and career pathways. There has been major developments towards the national RPL system in South Africa. Among others, in 2008, SAQA collaborated with the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development as part of an international study to determine the effectiveness and extent of RPL practices across 22 countries in 5 continents. The study showed that while South Africa had made progress in this area of RPL, such progress was limited to islands of good practice. A national RPL conference was held in 2014 with over 400 participants to share RPL tools and a ministerial policy for the coordination and funding of RPL in 2016. The National RPL Coordinating Mechanism has been established. These developments, as well as figures based on RPL data in the National Learner Records database, are captured in SAQA's paper, Lifelong Learning at the Center, the RPL System in South Africa, by Bolton et al., 2017. This paper was presented at the UNESCO CEDEFOP second validation prior learning biennial in April 2017, which won second place for South Africa. Since 2014, over 63,000 learning achievements via RPL have been recorded on the NLRD. Coming to articulation and learner mobility and progression. All of the activities linked to SAQA's development and implementation of the NQF level descriptors and NQF policy suite under the NQF Act support articulation. SAQA recognizes, supports, and promotes articulation at different levels. Systemic articulation, which is understood as comprising linked-up system elements, official learning pathways. The specific articulation enabled through inter-institutional arrangements and the articulation of individuals' learning pathways as they encounter and negotiate barriers to advancement. The 10 NQF level descriptors delineate the 10 NQF levels and provide the foundation or grid upon which the 3 NQF sub-frameworks are built. In the spirit of opportunities for lifelong learning at the center, there must be articulated learning pathways within and between the NQF sub-frameworks, within workplaces, and between learning and work. The level descriptors make possible the comparison of qualifications nationally and internationally. Part qualifications can only be registered on the NQF when they are part of a whole qualification, and whole qualifications when they are part of learning and work pathways, and when they specify RPL, credit accumulation and transfer, and articulation possibilities. The work of the professional bodies in granting designations and license to practice and maintaining standards in professional practice also plays a key role in articulation. Professional bodies must provide robust evidence that they are inclusive, transparent, and monitor continuing professional development. And they are strongly encouraged to provide RPL routes to their professional designations. While articulation within South Africa is a primary focus, articulation for international mobility and progression is also important. In line with its mandate, SAQA evaluates over 25,000 foreign qualifications annually, enabling access to education, training, and work in South Africa for holders of foreign qualifications. This function places the Department of Home Affairs in a position to process visas for further learning and the importation of scarce and critical skills based on the evaluations provided by SAQA. Professional bodies also rely on SAQA's evaluation of foreign qualifications for their decisions to issue licenses for professional practice in the country. SAQA's verification service and foreign qualifications evaluation advisory services position SAQA as an independent, credible, legitimate authority, which provides trusted information and which safeguards the NQF and its values. SAQA also collaborates with entities in foreign countries to enable learning and work pathways abroad for the holders of South African qualifications and for the development and implementation of education, training, and professional-related bilateral and multilateral agreements, whereby detailed evaluations are conducted for specific qualifications in advance, accompanied by countries' agreements around this process. Currently, SAQA plays a leading role in the development and implementation of the South African Development Community, that's SADC Regional Qualifications Framework, and has done so for well over a decade. In November 2014, SAQA convened a verification seminar, Building Trust, Promoting Genuine Qualifications in Africa through effective verification for the African countries from which South Africa receives the most applications for immigration. The event brought together key stakeholders on the African continent and set up a network of verification qualifications so that fraudulent practices can be countered through formal trust relationships combined by quick, innovative, and effective processes for verification and evaluation, including the reduction of cost. I'm quickly going to skip that paragraph. It's something that I've already articulated. So SAQA has launched a world-first project to provide online electronic real-time verification of the SAQA certificates of evaluation by making digital seals and certificates available to selected qualification holders. This pilot project places SAQA at the next level of cutting-edge technology as the first qualifications authority in the world to embrace elements of the fourth industrial revolution through the use of digital seals and certificates. This project assists the mobility of a skilled workforce across Africa and the rest of the world. It will also reduce fraud because, unlike the paper-based certificates, the electronic certificates are more difficult to forge. SAQA participates in the Groningen Declaration Network, a voluntary international network of country representation working towards promoting learner mobility through the provision and sharing of digital learner records. SAQA has shared its experiences in international articulation initiatives widely. SAQA's recent partnership research included a national articulation baseline study. This study revealed that there are high levels of awareness of systemic and specific articulation across the system. Knowing that this has been very difficult to implement, particularly around a higher education institution that just jealously guard against their autonomy. However, all of the public TVET colleges reported engagement in some articulation activities, and over 2/3 of the public higher education institutions did so as well. The research revealed that 16 developed established articulation initiatives, 38 emerging partly established initiatives, and 20 latent articulation scenarios, which had once been established but had later ceased to function. The DME's NQF implementation evaluation. Across 2016 and 2017, the Department of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation conducted an NQF Act implementation evaluation. It found that considerable progress has been made in implementing the NQF. Its findings included that much of the NQF policy and regulatory framework has been developed and is in place, and work on qualifications development has gathered pace in all of the NQF sub-frameworks contexts. The NQF is now widely accepted by policymakers and stakeholders across the education and training system, and there is growing awareness of it and emerging evidence that this awareness is translating into better implementation practices, and the NQF is beginning to embed itself in the education and training system. In closing, I would like to cite the human capital theory, which explores the way individuals and society derives economic benefits from investment in people. Analysis of most successful organizations reveals that the source of that success rests on human capital. Phillips, 2005, describes human capital as representing the relationship between what organizations invest in employees and the emerging success. Phillips claims that it is the people and how the organization has attracted, maintained, motivated, and retained the knowledge, skills, and creative capacity of those employees. It is therefore important that there be greater understanding of this kind of investment. In that regard, SAQA's key objective is to ensure that that investment in human capital for the present as well as the future is in quality qualifications, which provide learners with a passport through which skills, competencies can be recognized and transported. With that, I thank you all for listening. Thank you.